It starts before sunrise. The valley is quiet in a way that feels wrong, not peaceful, held, like the air is waiting for something. Your patrol moves in a standard column. 7 men. You've run this route 4 times this week. That's the mistake nobody says out loud until it's too late. Patterns get you killed. The first shot comes from the ridge on the left, then everything happens at once. The first seconds. Your body moves before your mind does. Training does that. You drop. You find cover behind a broken wall that used to be somebody's home. You press your back against the stone and you breathe. 1 breath. 2. You hear your team returning fire. You hear names being called across the radio. You hear something you will never describe to anyone who wasn't there. Then the radio goes quiet. You wait. You listen. Nothing moves except dust and smoke drifting across the open ground. You call out. No answer. You call again. Nothing. You understand what the silence means before you let yourself believe it. The first minute, you do not panic. Panic is a luxury. You assess. Cover to your left. Open ground to your right. Ridge still active. 1 shooter, maybe 2. The angle of the shots tells you something. They're watching the road, not the wall. They don't know exactly where you are. That is the only advantage you have. You check yourself. No hits. Your hands are steady. That surprises you. You thought your hands would shake. They don't. Not yet. You think of your team. You push the thought down. Not now. Later. Survive first. Grieve later. That's the only order that makes sense right now. You key the radio. Static. Wayne, then a voice, distant, broken. You transmit your position. You transmit contact. You transmit the word nobody wants to say. Casualties. Then you wait again. Because waiting, when done correctly, is not passive. Waiting is a decision. The next 10 minutes, the shooting stops. Silence after a firefight has a texture. Heavy. Pressing. You've heard veterans describe it, and you never understood until now. The world didn't get quieter. You got louder inside. Every heartbeat sounds like a boot on gravel. You move, low and slow, not toward the road, toward the tree line at the base of the ridge. Counterintuitive. The shooter expects retreat. You don't retreat. You cover 30 meters in what feels like 30 minutes. Your knees bleed. You don't notice until later. You reach the trees. You stop. You listen. 1 position. 1 shooter. He's repositioning. You can hear it. Small sounds. The kind only soldiers and hunters recognize. The sound of someone who thinks they've won moving to confirm it. He's wrong. The decision. You don't make it emotionally. You make it the way your instructors drilled into you until the emotion was gone and only the process remained. Threat assessment. Terrain, wind, distance, angle. You have 1 clear window. 12 seconds, maybe 15, before he moves again. You take it. 1 shot. The ridge goes quiet. You stay still for another 4 minutes. Because 4 minutes is the difference between discipline and a mistake. Nothing moves. The long walk out. QRF arrives 41 minutes later. You hear the rotors before you see the dust. You walk out of the tree line with your rifle down and your hands visible. Standard. Careful. Even now. Especially now. The first soldier who reaches you grabs your arm. You don't remember what he says. You remember the grip. Firm. Real. The first human contact in what felt like a year compressed into an hour. They ask if you're hit. You say no. They ask about the others. You tell them what you know. Flat voice. Accurate words. You will fall apart later, in private, the way soldiers do. Not here. Not in front of the ridge. Not yet. They put you in the aircraft. The ground drops away beneath you. The valley gets smaller. The broken wall gets smaller. The road gets smaller. You don't look away until you can't see it anymore. The debrief, 3 hours. A room with fluorescent lights and bad coffee. You answer every question. You answer the same questions 4 different times from 4 different people. You don't embellish. You don't minimize. You give them exactly what happened in exactly the order it happened. At some point, someone puts a hand on your shoulder and says, "You did everything right." You nod. You don't feel it yet. Feeling it takes longer. Sometimes months, sometimes longer than that. They tell you to rest. You go to the bunk. You stare at the ceiling. You think about the 7 of you moving down that road before sunrise. The quiet that felt wrong. The thing you almost said and didn't. You decide you'll say it next time. Every time. If something feels wrong, you say it. That's the only thing you can carry forward. The only thing that makes the wait useful. The aftermath. They send you home for 30 days. Your family doesn't know what to say. Neither do you. You sit at the dinner table and the food is warm and the room is safe and part of you is still in that valley pressing your back against a wall made of someone else's stones. You go to the appointments they schedule. You talk to the people they send you to, not because it fixes anything immediately, because you understand now that carrying weight alone is how soldiers break, and breaking serves no one. You run every morning, not to outrun anything, to stay connected to your body, to remind yourself it's still here. You read the names of the men you were with. You say them out loud, not as ritual, as refusal. Refusal to let them become abstract. They were specific people. They remain specific. The return, 30 days end. You go back, not because you've stopped feeling the weight, because you've learned to move with it. Because the men who trained you, the ones who came before, they carried the same weight and they went back too. There's a new patrol, new faces, some of them young in the way you were young 8 months ago, confident in the way that hasn't been tested yet. You brief them before the first operation. You tell them what you tell every team now. If something feels wrong, say it. Every time. No exceptions. They nod. They don't fully understand yet. That's fine. Understanding comes from surviving. Your job is to make sure they get the chance. The valley is quiet before sunrise. Your body is alert in the way it learned to be alert. You move. The ghost. Years later, you are not the soldier who survived the ambush. Wash, you are something quieter than that. You train others. You run programs for veterans who came back carrying things that don't have names yet. You sit in rooms and you listen the way someone listens when they know that silence is sometimes louder than words. People who know your record sometimes look at you a certain way, searching for the damage, for the dramatic scar, for evidence of what you lived through. They don't find what they're looking for, not because it isn't there, because you learned what to do with it. You let it make you careful instead of fearful, precise instead of reckless, present instead of somewhere else. You don't talk about the valley often. When you do, it's to someone who needs to hear that surviving is not the end of the story. It's just the place where the real one begins. Somewhere right now, a patrol is moving before sunrise. A valley is holding its breath. A soldier is noticing something that doesn't feel right. You hope they say it out loud. You hope someone listens. The mission continues.